Hey, what's up? Travel Chronicles, chapter 57. We got the presidential election coming up. Pretty awesome. Not really. And I'm not sure at what point it happened, but the presidential election or the process itself has devolved so badly into something that's just, it's like watching a train wreck. I mean, it really is. And they had the first debate last night for the 2020 presidential election. And I watched the first 10 minutes of it this morning. It was not good. It was not good. Like, the guy couldn't get the questions out. They wouldn't let him answer. They were talking over each other. And like in most presidential debates, these people have these talking points they want to get to. So no matter what question is asked, they try to steer it towards something else. So they're talking about the Supreme Court first, the Supreme Court nominee, and whether that's outside the power of the president to nominate somebody for the Supreme Court when they're at the tail end of their term. And lines up like, oh yeah, it should definitely be the next president that gets to, that we're in the election process now. People have already started voting, so, you shouldn't do anything. And Donald Trump's like, look, I was elected for 4 years. I wasn't elected for 3.5 years. I wasn't elected for 3 years. I was elected for 4 years. If something happens in that 4-year term, I'm completely, one, allowed to, and two, obligated to. And they have control of the Senate, so his nomination is likely going to get through, eventually, unless something just comes out in the hearing. But, Democrats are going to have to be careful now because they don't want to make themselves look bad during this hearing process, right? They don't want to be seen as overbearing, ripping apart somebody because of their religion or something like that, being discriminatory against a female Supreme Court nominee, because that could end up costing them seats. So they have to be careful in how they do this, and how they handle this. And I think the Republicans know it, but they're certainly not outside the realm of their capabilities or responsibilities. The one of the worst cases of this is very early on in the country's history, when John Adams got voted out and Thomas Jefferson was going to take over. Those two didn't like each other. And back then, whoever lost the presidential election became the vice president. So, which that would not work at all these days. Don't give it, that would be just horrible to think of, because somebody would do something to get the president, so the other guy could be vice president. The vice president could be president. It would be terrible. Right? Most of the time they pick a vice president that you wouldn't want to be president to run with. So I think as things have changed, they've made that call correctly. But back then, you wouldn't think of doing something like that. Well, anyway, Adams leaves, but the Supreme Court, the Chief Justice, retires right before the end of the thing. He didn't die, he retired. So Adams nominated Marshall. And I think he was a lame duck president at the time. I don't even think it was like during the tail end of his presidency before the election. I think he was actually going to be out. Well, it gets through. Marshall gets through, and he ends up being the chief of the Supreme Court for like 30 years. And it just drove Jefferson crazy, because he didn't like Marshall either. So they were really like trying to put the screws to him. And then, they had limited the number of seats, so it was like Jefferson wasn't going to get to name anybody to the Supreme Court. Well, then he changed that, so then he got to ended up like naming like 3 Supreme Court justices. So, it kind of worked out for him anyway. But, that's the thing with the Supreme Court. There's 5 seats, 7 seats, 9, right? So you don't know how many people are going to, retire or die. I mean, Ruth Bader Ginsburg passed away, somewhat unexpectedly, I think. I mean, she was an older person, but, they certainly weren't counting on losing that seat. President Trump is doing is nothing that hasn't been done before, and really was done at the very infancy of this country. So, he's well within his means, legal abilities, and obligations to name a nominee to the Supreme Court. 100%. So that was an easy answer to the question. Biden takes it as, well, he wants to name somebody so they can repeal the Health Care Act. If that's part of his plan, then, that's something that has to be taken in totality when you're selecting who you want to vote for president. Personally, I'd love to get rid of that act. So, you did nothing but bolster the case for President Trump in answering that question that way. But he wanted to steer it away from the Supreme Court justice and what the legal obligations were or ramifications, and make it about the Affordable Health Care Act or Obamacare. It's like most people don't like it. So, and he wants somebody that's going to rule on Obamacare as unconstitutional. Heck yeah, it's unconstitutional. You can't force a people to buy a product, which is what you've done, is force people to buy insurance in a free country. We're a free country. You can't force me to have insurance. You can't force me to pay for that, because insurance is a private industry. So that's ridiculous, and Trump tries to make the claim that, oh, well, you want socialist medicine, and he's like, no, I don't. And it's like, of course he does. That's the whole playbook right now, is to get to some kind of socialized health care for all, or medicine paid for all people. But my stance is that the problem is not necessarily with the insurance, it's with the health care, because we're attacking the insurance side of it. Well, insurance isn't the ones that are doing it. We need health care. You want to be able to go to the doctor, see the doctor when you need to see the doctor, get in the hospital when you need to be in the hospital. And, insurance has too much say in how you're being treated right now, is the problem, honestly. Like, insurance shouldn't be telling the doctor what they can charge for, what they can't charge for, what they're willing to pay for, and what they're not willing to pay for. That should be part of the equation. If the doctor says you need this, A, B, and C, then that's what you need. But the hospitals are for-profit entities too, so they're trying to make money. So these procedures cost an insane amount of money. You're pregnant, you're going to have a kid, oh, that's $10,000 to have a baby. Something that, theoretically you should be able to do completely naturally, because every other animal in the world does, without being in a hospital for 2 or 3 days.